Hi, you look so good today. You know what I mean? So it's currently probably 9 in the morning, and I just watched Drag Race's newest episode last night. So we're gonna do some fun drag, and while we're doing it, we're just gonna discuss some stuff. I'm gonna have some fun putting some makeup on my face. Right now, I'm once again serving egg realness. I do now have a mic. I don't know if this is a good mic. I'm assuming it is. I don't know what the quality is like. So you'll have to tell me. So why don't we start by putting foundation on my face? I think that that's probably the best idea. So this was Drag Race second episode, and it does start off kind of where it left off last episode, where all of the queens in like the pork chop lounge have to vote out one of their fellow queens. So they do it very all stars style, where they've got lipsticks and they have to just kind of pull out whichever lipstick that they want and throw it in like a box with a hole. And then they never show anyone reading it or anything. They just get an announcement where Rue goes, so the queen who's blah, blah, blah is this queen. So it ends up being a tie. And it is between Utica Queen and Elliot with two T's. Keep in mind that this is based on literally nothing. So they don't really know any of their fellow competitors because none of them have seen each other lip sync. And I think all the queens are pretty annoyed at that too. So they're literally just voting for people based off of first impressions. So it does end up being a tie, so they do kind of a runoff, and Utica Queen ends up being safe. It's actually Elliot with two T's that unanimously gets voted to get like the pork chop, and she's all sad and she leaves, and all the queens kind of look pretty devastated. Like, I don't think any of them were very happy with what happened. So basically, the next day, all of the queens who won walk into the workroom and they are alone. So initially, I think they are kind of convinced that they're the only queens that are continuing on in the competition. To this point, they haven't even really met any of the queens in the pork chop lounge except for the ones that they personally sent to the pork chop lounge. So they're feeling pretty good. They don't seem concerned or really that annoyed or frustrated or anything like that. They're pretty content. And then in walks Rue, the usual like announcement sound happens. And in walks Rue, and Rue's like, one of the queens didn't get a fair opportunity, so we're bringing her in, and it's Elliot with two T's. Surprise, literally the first episode had no consequence whatsoever. Wow, it looks so good. So Elliot is coming in feeling pretty happy that that she gets a second chance, and everyone else is kind of thwack about it, like they're not very happy, but they're making do. Although, okay, this is going to be slightly out of order, I think, but what's weird to me is that these queens, they're really pushing this storyline where the queens are like, they keep on going into their confessionals and being like, I don't trust Elliot. Elliot is a spy. I bet you Elliot's a mole. And I was just watching that the whole time being like, a mole for who? Like, let's not act like there aren't cameras on you at all times. And if Rue really cares as to what you're doing, he'll just ask production, Like, who is Elliot spying for? And, I could understand this if this was like a different game show or whatever, but it's Drag Race. Like, it's RuPaul's Drag Race. And to this point, there's never been any kind of challenge, any situation where a mole has been a thing. So I'm really not sure why they would even bring that up, except for, drama. And I'm pretty sure that they were just kind of told to say that. So that all happens. And all the queens are kind of, I wouldn't say like everyone's rude to Elliot, but some queens definitely were. And I was kind of right. If you weren't watching last week's episode, I kind of said that I thought they were going to give Candy Muse the villain edit. And if not the villain edit, the bitch who likes to fight edit. And I think that I was right. It's still a little early to call 100%. However, this episode, Elliot and Candy did go kind of head to head. However, I did find that Elliot was a little bit more like out and very vocal about what she was saying. And Candy was kind of, definitely kind of fighting back in person, but 100% fighting back in confessionals, like just talking shit. The situation that happens is the girls are kind of talking in the workroom, and Elliot says something along the lines of, you know, everyone knows that you, Candy Muse, are kind of an adjacent Rue girl, and I know you call yourself a Rue girl, and that you're like, you feel very confident. And Candy's like, yeah, absolutely, because like Aja and oh shoot, there's another queen, and I can't remember which queen this is. Oh, it was Dahlia Sin from the previous season. Like they're sisters. And then so then Elliot goes, well, you do know that like anytime that someone's related to a queen, that girl gets usually sent home pretty quickly. Like it's actually kind of bad. And the weirdest part about this is that they act like they're like, oh, Elliot, you just came up in here and you act like you can like chill out with us. Meanwhile, these girls have known each other for 30 minutes before they met Elliot, most of them. So, you know, very, very produced. So this week's challenge is a musical challenge, and it's based on Rue's like Work the World tour, which if you don't know is like a drag queen. I guess it's like a stage show. I think it's only in Las Vegas, but I could be very wrong. Like, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it is in Vegas, and it's not like a touring event. This week, they're going to do a rendition of Rue's song, Congratulations, which will include their own individual, like, section where they have their own lyrics. So they do that. I'm assuming, because usually they don't show any more of them writing their lyrics because they used to, what they would do is they would be sitting at a table and being like, oh God, what rhymes with vagina? But they don't do that anymore. I'm pretty sure now all the girls, I think that they just dropped the act. I think we've all known, or at least most of us have known, that the girls were not just writing their own material the day of. They usually came with it already prepared. So yeah, I don't think that they're trying to push that whole, like, they're doing it that day. Although I will 100% always miss my favorite moment. Oh, that's strong. Any moment is Alyssa Edwards writing jokes in the workroom and pissing off everyone. So good. It's my favorite thing. Oh, okay. Oh. Oh. But before we talk about like how they're doing in the main challenge, let's quickly touch on the mini challenge. So this week's mini challenge was a fashion show, and they've been doing this in season 7, where the girls will do 2 looks. They'll do one that's like, it'll be like a normal sort of like day runway and night runway, which is what they did this year. Some years it's like medals, or I don't know. They just do different themes usually. Sometimes it's summer, sometimes it's fall. And I think it's just a good opportunity for the queens to kind of show their sense of style and kind of, again, wow the judges really early. This episode did not feature any of the girls that were in that, like, the unloading zone or whatever from the first episode, except for the scene where they voted out Elliot. So I'm assuming, I think based on the promo, next week is just them. And then maybe they'll come together. I'm really hoping it's not a situation where we have to watch 2 different girls every week. It goes back and forth. I mean, I was thinking that would make sense for COVID, except for they've already kind of commingled. So I don't think that that's what they're going to do. The losing girls, I'm assuming they're just still sitting in that dock. You know, they don't get to go home. They're stuck on uncomfortable stools waiting for their chance to leave that area. I'm going to start on the eyes, and today we're going kind of artsy, sloppy. It'll be kind of fun. You'll see. So I'm just going to take this big brush. It already has pink on it, which is perfect because I'm using a pink from the Smoky Glow palette. I'm a professional. And I think I'm going to go with Friends, I think, like this one here. So everyone in the challenge did pretty well. I don't think anyone kind of sucked in that mini challenge. There were definitely a couple that didn't really stand out very much to me, but I think that's kind of a personal preference. I definitely don't feel like they didn't like impress the judges or anything. The highlights for me, I really liked Mick because she was doing this incredible. She did two incredible looks. Her first was very colorful in daytime. It was like a rainbow. It was just really pretty. It was blue. It was very friendly and colorful. And then her second look was very, very dark seductress. It was kind of like Dita Von Teese. It was neat. I liked it. Now I'm gonna go with an acid green. I just have this one from an old palette. I think it's a Model's Own palette. I think it's like the Full Moon or something. So this, like, so many people did well. Shout out for sure. Tina Burner had some really, really neat and interesting ones. So Simone's summer look, I think, was really, really pretty. I keep saying really, really. Her daytime look was really nice. It was this pantsuit, but it had like a skirt attached. It was just really cool. It had like a little cape on one side. Very unique, very interesting. But her nighttime look was, it was a bed sheet. Like she said, I don't have a dress, but I do have this bed sheet and I will wear this on a runway. It was very much giving me like what you would were you ever a child and you wanted to kind of have fun with family members or friends, and so you'd go in your room and like wrap a blanket around you like a dress and put on runway shows for yourself? That is so, I love that. That's so colorful. It was very that. Like it was very she didn't try for that one, but I will say she was serving looks like the rest of the episode. Oh, Olivia Lux. Olivia Lux really wowed me this episode. Now, I do feel like she didn't stand out to me in the first episode very much. Her first outfit that she came out in, the first episode, was very like baggish. It was just like a cocoon around her of like orange and pink. It was not attractive. But this episode, she stood out. She had some nice retro glam, but she didn't only do retro. She had, oh, it was amazing. Get this. So Elliot, who definitely didn't wow anyone the first episode, really, really took to the stage well this episode. So all of Elliot's looks, her looks were incredible. She had on her first look was very like, it was very Parisian holiday Barbie. So it was like a red gorgeous gown with these like big poofy sleeves and a beret and really nice hair with like a blunt bang. So nice. And then her second look though was like a period piece, but like a dominatrixy like lady of the night. So interesting. I swear I have a vision for this. I'm not just slamming stuff on my face just to do it. So after that, you know, they, technically speaking, that's when they find out what the main challenge is, though I have already said what it is early. But they're just kind of doing their thing, having fun, and they go to the main stage to learn their dance. And this is for sure where I think I'm correct in, again, I'm so good at reading edits. And RuPaul's Drag Race people are going to watch this, and they're going to be like, never mind, we're changing it up because she's too good. So... probably not. So basically, Tina Burner, I think, has kind of taken charge of dancing because it doesn't seem like really any of them are competent dancers. Or, I mean, I guess at least, like, I would say they don't feel like they're competent dancers. I wouldn't say that personally as someone who doesn't dance. This is kind of when the whole editing thing comes in. The queens are having a really hard time figuring out their dance moves, and they're kind of really relying on Tina, and Tina's also kind of blanking a little, and that's when Elliot steps in and is like, well, what if we do this, this, and this? They've done this time and time again, so one of the queens suggests something that someone else just decides they don't like, usually because they just don't like that queen, and then they're like, ugh, I can't believe that Jenna said that, and then it kind of starts a beef. And Tina Burner's like, oh, I can't believe her. She's awful. She killed my family. So this is kind of when Gottmik has a moment, and I do kind of want to talk, before we talk about this moment, I just want to address something. So Gottmik is a trans man, and I would love to respect his gender pronouns and call him a he, as you should, because that is his preferred pronouns. However, he also has stated in the show himself that when he is in drag, he prefers she. So going forward, I will be using he and she interchangeably, depending on usually if I'm discussing Gottmik in drag versus out of drag. However, I usually refer to most of the queens in and out of drag as she. That just tends to be something they usually do on the show, and I'm very comfortable with that. If anyone has any issues with that, please let me know. I'm specifically trying to go with what Gottmik himself did say. It can be a bit difficult figuring out the pronoun situation, especially with a trans man who's doing drag as a female presenting character. So now let's quickly discuss what was going on with Gottmik, because I do think it's a really interesting topic. So during the rehearsal, they're all listening to each other's parts. They're trying to figure out. They're like listening to their parts as they usually do with headphones. And I'm assuming that it's a situation where once they hit play, everyone can kind of hear. And Gottmik gets kind of thrown off because in the song, he describes a bit of his transition, saying that he was born a woman and transitioned into a man. And what trips him up isn't so much, revealing that, because he's been very open about that from the start. It's very specifically that he didn't really talk to the girls about it first, and he doesn't like the idea of them finding out through a song. He would rather have a conversation with them. And I totally understand where Gottmik is coming from. Because for me, I have been in situations myself. I'm a very open person. I mean, again, you're going to hear me say this so many times on this channel. I am a trans woman, and I'm very, very open about, I'm very open about the fact that I'm trans. It doesn't really bother me. However, I have definitely experienced moments where I have been thrown off because, ooh, because someone either found out before I was ready to discuss it with them, or they found out in such a way that it wasn't a conversation with me. And it can definitely kind of throw you for a loop. You're expecting to have this really open conversation, and it kind of gets taken from you. And I can completely relate to that. And Gottmik says that it kind of gives him a bit of anxiety. And again, I totally understand that as well. I think the narrative for a lot of trans people tends to be, you transition and suddenly you're good. You don't really get any more dysphoria. And while transitioning does definitely help with dysphoria, you kind of always will get bouts of dysphoria, and you can't really control it. You don't really know when and how it's going to come. You just kind of know that it does every now and then, you know? So Gottmik is kind of dealing with that. It's definitely throwing him for a loop, but everyone's really accepting and happy for him, and that makes me feel good. I love that. I'm very, very proud of Gottmik. So the next day in the workroom rolls around, and they're all doing their thing. They're getting ready, and they want to know specifically from. Oh, wait, hang on one sec. Oh. And they ask Elliot, what happened in the workroom, or in the, what is it? They ask him what happens in the pork chop lounge. And so Elliot goes into it, and they have this moment where they're like, oh, okay, now we trust you and we like you. And to me, that was very obvious. It was just a lot of editing. I'm not here to call out production, but I 100% will. And so finally the girls are like, oh, wow, you shared that with us? Okay, now you're our friend. It was very calculated, very, again, produced. And the girls get on stage and they're singing their little thing. They're singing their heart out. I don't really know how to recap specifically what each of them said without just reading off from a sheet like their lyrics. But basically all of them were just singing about themselves. Gottmik rapped or sang about her transition. Tina Burner rapped about the fact that her name is Tina Burner and she's popular and people like her. Can't relate. And then Candy Muse rapped about, I don't know, because she was so hard to understand. It was a wild experience, to be sure. The judges were right. They were saying that Candy Muse has this really, really great personality, and I 100% agree with them. She's got a really fun, very TV-ready personality, very high energy. Oh, which I did like. I actually really like Candy Muse. But she has a problem where she kind of mumbles, and so a lot of her lyrics were kind of hard to understand. At least for me. I don't know if anyone else had trouble with it, but I did. I could definitely understand some of it. She did really good job with the dancing. Really great personality, but the judges did clock her on not really being able to understand her very well. I just really hope the judges don't do that thing where they're like, you're gonna have to enunciate. We could send you home for not being good at speaking. This episode was kind of weird because all of the queens did well. The bottom two, if you want to call it, is Got Mick and Candy Muse. In my opinion, they're just the ones that got like the worst critiques. But no one was really in the bottom because no one went home. Spoiler alert. RuPaul was like, hey girls, like, sometimes as drag queens we have a hard time. So even if you get voted off first, just know that we love and care about you. It's really hard to talk when you're ruining your face. If I was on Drag Race, Michelle Visage would be like, so, like, what are we doing here today? And I'd be like, I don't know. I'm just having fun and being myself. And she'd be like, stop it. Like, stop being yourself. And I'd have to be like, sorry, Michelle. I really wish that I had more to say about this episode. Like, I guess I could talk about the runways because they were pretty good, but the theme this week was lame, and they were just kind of interesting. They were wearing lame fabrics. I don't think anyone really had a bad look. The simplest was definitely Candy Muse, but honestly, her look was really nice. It was this like nighttime kind of retro cute, very like sexy kind of a look. It was a little like, at least I didn't think it was the best, but really, I mean, it wasn't bad. There were really not any duds this episode. There was a lip sync between Olivia Lux and Simone, and that was good. This episode was fine. I'll be honest, musical episodes and stuff like that really isn't my main dig. I don't love it. There wasn't any major drama yet, and really no one went home. This one kind of felt more like the first episode than the last episode did. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I really have that much to say about this episode. It happened. It was a good episode. But because I didn't have nearly as much to say, well, I decided to do maybe a little bit crazier of makeup just to have some fun and, I don't know, do something interesting. Let me know, did you like this? Did you enjoy it? Are you liking this? Do you have any suggestions for my channel? That's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I make new content every Friday and Sunday right now because Drag Race is on, and I will be reviewing every episode of Drag Race while doing drag makeup or some kind of fun makeup. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!